special teams coordinator, defensive tackle coach. That's Coach Gazer, Nick Gazer, with us. And Nick, I think the one thing I can say about NDSU football, it's been for a while, walk-on players have found a way not just to be walk-on role players, but starters or all-conference players, guys who've eventually went to the NFL or maybe had a chance in the National Football League. So first thing, before we talk about any specific player, what is it about this program that develops walk-on players to be part of the program but also excel in this program?
Yeah, there's no doubt it's been a huge part of our recruiting process and our football team. I mean, from the Joe Hagues to the Schatz to the Aaron Steidels to Matt Bieglers. I mean, there's a list of guys that go on and on and on, and I think we recognize the importance of those guys. We recruit those kids really hard. I know recruiting a few of those guys, we recruit those kids as hard as any scholarship athletes that we have, because we understand the importance that those kids have, the value, the depth. You got to have players like that for your program to move forward.
And one thing noticing and talking to Cody Mauk, he switched positions 2 times already. Now he found himself on the offensive line. So how do you get one of these guys who could possibly be a tight end or defensive tackle or D tackle to a center? How do you find the right fit for them to excel?
You know, a lot of those kids we recruit as athletes. You know, we find big players, or not even big players, but we find good football players that are versatile, can do a lot of different things, and we try to bring them into our program, and then we let Coach Kramer work with them for a couple of years, and then we kind of figure out what would fit them best. You know, I mean, again, all those guys we mentioned, maybe came in at some different positions. Shoot, Brian Schatz, we thought he might be a fullback initially coming in here, and developed, got bigger, got stronger, and next thing you know, he's a heck of a 3 technique for us. So we just kind of recruit those kids, a lot of them as athletes, and then once we get them here, we figure out what would be their best fit.
It's different for every player too, but a guy like Trey Fort from Fargo Shanley, it seems like special teams he's really been able to develop on and found himself on the 2 deep a little bit. So how can a guy like Trey Fort maybe set an example for the incoming walk-on class to say, hey, you might have to bide your time, but if you find a role, you can achieve your role?
I think it's that way for a lot of positions on our team. It's the Chris Boards, the Nick DeLucas. Some of the best players that we've ever had here have had to have had the opportunity to play special teams early on and found their impact on special teams, and Trey's no different. Had the opportunity to come out there and make some big plays for us on special teams. His value is humongous for our football team. So again, just being able to get on special teams and bringing great value has really been an important part for us.
You mentioned one of the players I was going to ask you about. Again, Coach Gazer with us is Matt Biegler, moving from tight end to defensive tackle. So what has he been able to bring to the 2019 team, but also how have you seen his game continue to grow year in and year out?
Yeah, to come in here as a young player and play a lot as a defensive tackle doesn't happen very often, especially as a walk-on kid. But, again, same thing. Bees came in here kind of as an athlete. We didn't know necessarily where he would go right away. We put him at tight end, and he continued to get bigger, faster, stronger, and the next thing you know, we put him at 3 technique. And I would argue he's had as good a year as anybody up front for us right now. He's really playing at a high level. He's competing hard. He's working his tail off, and he's been an impact player for us. So I give him a lot of credit because, again, coming in here as a walk-on is not an easy thing, but those kids come in with a chip on their shoulder, know they got to outwork the next guy, and next thing you know, they're big-time players for us.
Is there a secret formula to success about walk-ons? Because, I understand that some maybe develop because an injury happens, so they get the next shot and boom, they just take their job. Others develop and just learn and kind of bide their time before they kind of mature into their body. Is there a secret formula? Because it seems like year in and year out, we're talking about 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 walk-ons playing a vital role on offense, defense, and special teams.
I don't know if I can say there's a secret formula. I think every kid is a little bit different. Some kids need to get stronger. Some kids need to be bigger. I think the one thing, and I kind of hit on it a little bit a second ago, I think those walk-ons come in with a chip on their shoulder. They come in here with, man, I'm a walk-on. I gotta work my tail off harder than the next guy. I got to compete extremely hard. And when you come in with a chip on your shoulder like that, I think the sky's the limit a lot of times for those guys. So I give them a ton of credit. They work their tails off, and no matter who they are, and they've been a vital part of our football team.
I know, Nick, you were talking about earlier, finding the right players that find the mix for those walk-ons and how they can help out, and you recruit them as athletes. And some of them have been from Fargo Shanley with Trey Fort and Jake Hava, obviously Cody Mauk from Hankinson. What has it been about maybe the rural part of the state, not so much Fargo, but the Hankinsons, the Belforts, the Carlos, Minnesotas? Sure. I'm not even sure if I'm saying Carlos right, if you talk to Aaron Startle. Right. What is it about those rural area kids that you develop as walk-on players that all of a sudden by the time they're juniors or seniors, a lot of people know who their names are because they played a lot of reps in this program?
I think probably the biggest thing, the overlying theme, is just kids that come from a tough, hard-nosed, rural background where they've probably maybe some been farm kids, have had to do things around the house. Just kids that have a toughness about them that just obviously we love in our football program. So I think that's kind of the thing that we see out of those guys, and maybe they don't get all the attention, maybe they don't get all the stars, maybe they don't get all the accolades that some of the other kids or the big city kids have. But if we work hard enough and do our best recruiting, we're going to find some diamonds in the rough, and we certainly have.
I know people have called this maybe quarterback you with Carson, Easton, Brock, and now Trey, but is this walk on you? I mean, because of how many guys have been able to do that?
Man, I'd like to think so. I think us as coaches, we couldn't be more proud of the kids and what they've achieved from those walk-on statuses. We get as happy about those guys and seeing the success stories, and I know Coach Entz has more fun rewarding a walk-on kid with a scholarship than anything else. It's one of the great perks of our job, but we certainly hope we can continue that tradition. It's not easy. You got to find the right type of kids, but we hope if we continue to work at it and we do a good job with our camps, we're going to continue to find some of those diamonds in the rough.
Last thing for you, Coach Gazer, and the same thing for recruiting every year kind of changes a little bit for how many scholarship players you have or walk-ons. Is there a certain number of walk-ons that you kind of are roughly looking for? Is it 5 to 10 per year, maybe a couple on offense, couple on defense? What is the amount that you're looking for walk-ons every year?
Again, just like scholarship kids, it's different every year. It depends on how many seniors you have. If you lose some kids, you certainly want to have your roster full when you start fall camp or spring ball or whatever it is. You got to have bodies. You got to have guys that you can put out there. But we all know how hard we double rep and things like that. You got to have bodies. So it's an ongoing process figuring out how many you want to bring in, how many you need, all that kind of stuff, just like scholarship kids. So, but there's no doubt every year we'd love to get 10 to 15 walk-on kids that bring great value to our team.
Coach Gazer, thanks so much for your time, and keep developing the next Brian Schatzes and the Aaron Stettles of the world.
We'll do our best. Appreciate it.
Well, nose guard from sophomore from Castlewood, South Dakota, that's Costner Ching. And Costner, we're talking about walk-ons here, and it's kind of been a vital part of North Dakota State, and I'm going to call it walk-on you, just because there's so many success stories about walk-on players either going on to the next level or being all-conference or being a starter. So when it came to pen to paper, when you had to finally put your name down saying that you're going to commit to North Dakota State as a preferred walk-on, just take us through that day, take us through that mindset of what stood out about NDSU at that time when you said, I want to be a walk-on in Fargo.
Yeah, well, it starts with the whole recruiting process to start with. Coach Roll was the guy that kind of recruited me here, and my father being from South Dakota State, I grew up, and 15 minutes away from Brookings, I grew up a Jackrabbit fan. I hate to say it, but it started with Coach Roll, and he contacted me, and he's like, yeah, you want to come up for, spring and just to check this place out? And I'm like, well, yeah, absolutely. Great program, great tradition. I figured I'd expand out and see. And, man, I tell you, when Coach Roll came out those Fargo Dome doors for the first time, I kind of got this feeling that this place might be something special because he was fired up, and the coaching staff was awesome. And I loved it here. And, SDSU really didn't recruit me very hard because they thought hometown kid was going to go there, and up here just felt like a home. I love the guys up here, and like you said, Walk-On University, you hear all these stories. Aaron Steidel and those guys that have come on walk-ons, and these guys have given a shot, and that's all I wanted was a shot because I played 9-man football, and I never figured I'd get a Division I scholarship or a walk-on opportunity, and I took that and ran with it. And position change wise, I had to change my position, and I was okay with that because they gave me a shot to come here, and whatever they suggested to me to do, I was going to do. So no, it's I'm just glad they gave me an opportunity to come here and play, and I've made the most of it as far as now. So
you mentioned about the previous people who've had chances. I mean, I think everyone kind of goes to Joe Haig, right? The story of a walk-on to an NFL football player. Was it stories like that kind of made you go, hey, if I'm a walk-on here, if I do my job well, I know I'm going to get a shot somewhere along the lines during your 4 or 5 years here on campus?
Oh, no, absolutely. It showed that they use them. They don't just bring in walk-ons for scout team players. They're going to develop you, and if you have the potential, they're going to use you. So that was just one thing that showed me that if you come on as a walk-on, you're going to be able to play. So that's another reason why I came up here, yeah.
Is it bittersweet to tell to your family when it comes to Jackrabbit Week about how they know the story you, I'm sure, but is it bittersweet anyone for any of your family, or they're like, you know what, I guess I can wear some green and gold down there?
I got a lot of my family wearing green and gold. I got actually my brother lives down in Sioux Falls, and he's a pre-med student, and he's doing clinicals down there, and he'll actually go to a Bison bar to watch the game with this Bison crew. So I got a lot of them switching over to the old green and gold. You know, Dad has his buddies, you know, that give him a lot of crap, but they're all very supportive of me, and I appreciate the heck out of that for them. So
can we talk about what 9-man football did? Because I'm assuming you probably played 2 ways, maybe 3 ways of special teams. Yep. What did 9-man football do for you once you got to a spot like this, where maybe you could focus on one particular, you know, position in the game? Because 9-man, you were playing 3 different ways, I'm guessing. So how did going from that to now just focusing on your current position help you out?
Well, it helped in the sense that, you know, I knew offense and defense. I knew like offensive plays and defense plays. Now, coming from a 9-man school, there's a lot of different plays going on. There's different blitzes, and that was a whole new world to me. But you know, it showed that I could play both sides and whatever they needed me to do, and then staying on the field, being gassed. I was never off the field. I was always on the field, running around, trying to make plays, and it just showed that I could play both ways, and I could stay on the field and have some good stamina, I guess. So
Costner Ching with us here, and you know, we always hear about the chip on your shoulder, so to speak, as a walk-on player. Is that true, or is that just overmade? Because obviously you didn't get a scholarship, you got a walk-on, which means that you maybe have to work for a scholarship, or you're paying your own way in certain instances. Is that true that there is a chip on their shoulder, or is that just something that people like to say about guys that are developing as walk-on players?
Oh man, I'd say there's a little chip on your shoulder. You know, you go, everybody's treated the same here in the sense that scholarship versus walk-on, and they're all treated the same. They're all given the same opportunities. But when you beat out a scholarship guy and you're like, that guy's getting paid and I'm not, I mean, it's a little chip on your shoulder in the sense that motivation, you know, I'm going to get that scholarship. I'm going to, you know, get paid to play. And that was just one of the, like, motivation to keep going and to keep proving people wrong in the sense that you're going to earn a scholarship. So
how sweet was it your first time when you saw yourself on a 2 deep to say, hey, you know what, I might have a shot? And on top of that, how much they rotate guys in the defensive line where there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that can play. Did it kind of go, okay, walking on here, kind of cemented it the first time that you got to put the pads on and go, hey, I'm going to, you know, actually play in a college football game up here?
Yeah, it was kind of funny is that the first college football game I played in as a defensive tackle was on a baseball field, and my high school was on a baseball field. So that was kind of cool in the sense that, like, I went from a baseball field to a baseball field, still playing football, but it felt good. You know, you put in a lot of work to get to this point and to finally start, you know, playing and being with those guys and having those guys trust you, because that's a big part of that, is having the other guys trust you to do your job, you know. And it first time I saw my name in the 2 depth, I'm like, well, this is the real deal. I'm not a scout team player anymore. I'm going to actually be making plays on Saturday, and that was just a good feeling in the sense that a walk-on player, and I'm showing what I can do, and they're believing in me, and other guys believe in me to do my job. So.
Last thing for you, Costner, is if you had to talk to a guy that was a walk-on player at any level of college football, and they're thinking about maybe going to be a walk-on right now, whether they're a junior and senior in high school, what would you tell them about the process, and what does it mean to be a walk-on player? And do you kind of feel proud that you are a walk-on player that came through the system and now is, you know, starting to be in that 2 deep and kind of get your name and play out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel proud. You know, you were doubted, and some people still are doubted, and you have to prove that you can earn that scholarship, and you have to prove to everyone that you can play football. And when you get to that point, it feels good, but you can always, you know, keep getting better, keep expanding your knowledge. And people coming in, I'd say do it. You know, you're going to meet a lot of good buddies. You're going to have the time of your life and stuff like that in college football, and I just say it's worth the wait. It's worth the work. You know, I haven't gotten a scholarship yet, but I'm excited just to work for something, and that's what kind of people don't want to do nowadays, is work for something. And growing up on a family farm myself, having 2 older brothers, I had the crappy job. You know, my 2 older brothers drove the tractors, and I was fixing stuff in the back, and you know, I grew up doing the crappy jobs and stuff like that, so I was used to it, and I go for it. It's an experience, and you'll be proud of yourself when you're in that scholarship, and I hope by the end of the year I have one, so we'll see.
My last thing for you, because you mentioned something that Coach Gazer brought up on, and there's been so many rural Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota kids who came on and played on the line, and it seems like a number of them have been walk-on players who have developed into a starter and got a scholarship player. Is that something that is true, working up on the farm, having the crappy job with your 2 older brothers? Does it just kind of feel like, hey, this is just another Saturday, another Monday, another Sunday in my life, even though I'm doing this now against guys who are 300 pounds and they're going against me every day in practice?
Yeah, no, it's just the sense of work. You have to put in the time to get that reward, and you have to sometimes do the crappy jobs. And for me, it was doing the crappy jobs, and that was just something that was instilled in me, is a work ethic, working hard. And I hate talking about myself, but working hard and never giving up, never quitting on something. And that was just something the farm helped me with, in the sense that don't quit, keep going, and earn your spot on this team. And that's what I believe I've done so far, and I will continue to do.
Costner, thanks so much for your time. We look forward to seeing that number out there more on the 2 deep, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks down the Brookings area, Castlewood area, that may be cheering for you a little bit more in the green and gold.
Absolutely. Thank you.